Welcome to Perth.
Thank you so much.
Here with me is David Moore, who's a longtime martial arts brother, my editor for my next martial arts book, and we met each other on a forum once a long time ago called karatetips.com. So shout out to all of our friends from Karate Tips. David's just come to Perth, and we have been in the last couple of hours talking about our project and many different martial arts strategies and concepts. So first of all, welcome to David.
Well, thank you. It's so good to be here with you, Colin.
Yeah.
You know, you're very special to me.
Thank you.
Look, whoever's seeing this, however sweet and humble this guy is, know that his level of understanding and skill is deeper than his ability to express it. So no matter how awesome his words might be, know that the skill level is here and the communication level is here, and this might be all you see. Don't ever underestimate him. He's not just got a big heart, he's got a really deep understanding of the martial arts.
Oh, thank you, David. That's why I needed help in representing what I can do using an artist's impression of me on my first cover.
That's awesome. That's great, and I love this cover.
Oh, thank you. I think it puts me too much front and center. Slightly different with the next project.
But you are front and center because
know,
this
right?
is your interpretation of this bunkai, you know, that's being discussed, so it's important.
So the this project was hugely different from the project that we are involved in, and one thing that I was struggling with end of last year was that my publisher, the publisher of Breaking Through, had passed away in an unfortunate accident, and whilst I was working on the next manuscript, I felt quite a bit of anger and in fact resentment and grief for losing him, and I was actually really wanting to work on the next project with him, and I didn't feel as though I was anchoring myself and focusing just because I needed that reflection that he always gave me. And I happened to be chatting with David, and David was really kind enough to give me some insight on the work that I was doing and offer his services and help to improve on the manuscript. So I really do appreciate him from that point of view, and it was really important that I wasn't just working with a regular publisher. I mean, of course I could probably pay someone to do it, but I really wanted to work with somebody who is close to me, who understands the martial arts, and who can actually see the project as more than just a manuscript, right? or a martial arts manual.
Oh, it's so much more than that. You know, this first book that you put together, Breaking Through, is amazing because of the depth of understanding that it gives people who often overlook so much. They think that a series of movements is just an exercise on a basic level. Some of them think, oh, it's a series of techniques and I just need to learn what they are. No, it's giving you habits of motion that are going to be useful. It's giving you ideas for techniques that can be adapted to various situations. It's not teaching you set movements, and you do a beautiful job of informing the reader of just what sort of depth there is to be found in kata and how to look at it. If you learn how to see kata, your entire takeaway becomes enriched. Your entire takeaway is different from the practice of kata. You know, and when you learn how to see other martial arts systems, the structures, you understand them quickly if you're taught, you know, how to see structure. For instance, if someone tells you, very commonly there's an upper and a lower chamber area in theory, and in our theory there's a structure shape. So for Taekwondo, a lot of times it's rectangular. There's this rectangular area for the upper and the lower chamber that exists, and the movements stay within that most of the time, and so on. There's all these things, but for Wing Chun, the structure is unmistakably triangular. Absolutely a triangle. You're standing on a triangle. You're moving in triangular shapes in order to go from your center to the other. Here's a triangle here, triangle between this dimension as well. Your legs, your knees, everything's triangles, and the strength of Wing Chun comes from the triangular structure. And when you see that, and you can see those triangles in motion in your mind as a sort sort of a mind trick to get the structure, you can emulate it yourself more effectively. And when you see those lines, those imaginary lines in your mind of the triangles, you also create an energy matrix structure, a sort of a supportive structure that directs your force the way it's supposed to be directed. So if you just learn that, just that concept of looking at the shape of the structure of the various systems, you can begin to understand them very quickly just looking at them, and even emulate them sometimes successfully once you've done enough practice. So, you know, do people know how to see kata even from a basic perspective, like looking at the structure? Do they know then how to move because they realize they're within this box or that box? Do they understand the interaction of your body with the other body of your opponent or bodies of your opponents as relates to the habits of movement they learn in kata? I love the depth at which you're able to share with the student how they can apply these things. Thank you for your work.
This is the kind of conversation we've been having over the last couple of hours. David actually has had a lot of experience with traditional Chinese martial arts, and we were talking about how ground force works, how energies can go down into the ground, or it can actually start from the ground up. It can actually start from any point around the coordinates of the body, and you don't typically get that level of discussion through a hardstyle martial arts, because most hardstyle is basically focused on a lot of effort, a lot of muscular strength. The connection with the ground comes from set structures or kamae or postures that then eventually, I hope, bring you towards then this connection you have with the ground or through the forces that you have around you. So it's really interesting having this kind of level of discussion with the Chinese martial arts. I was actually reflecting with David that if I had this kind of insight 2 to 3 decades ago, how much better would I be? And this was one of the things that I started with breaking through, is that to actually see hardstyle legacy form work, but breaking down the training approach to not just focus on hardstyle fundamentals, but to actually look at these concepts of structure, of usage of force, energy, waves, to then interpret hardstyle frameworks differently. And sometimes I think like the flexibility that you bring, and I think that this is one of the reasons why it's so important for me to just not just work with a professional publisher or editor, but to work with a very experienced person, is that you are allowing me to have more flexibility to see the situations, the techniques or the framework, or even the people involved with the story, more than how I can bring my limited experience to it.
But we all are in that boat. We all have a very limited experience. We see the world like the Chinese say, like a frog in a well. We can look up, but we can only see just that circle of sky. And we think we're seeing the universe in the stonework and the circle of sky, but of course it's only a tiny, tiny representation of, we don't even know what's just outside that well. We don't know about this tree over here. So when we can communicate with each other, it's beautiful. It's like we're coming out of our well and looking around. Of course it's enlightening, but it's enlightening for all of us. And you've shared things with me that meant a lot to me too.
That's before we eat the frog up. Get that frog.
Don't make all the French people jealous now. They're famous for it and we're not, so don't make them jealous.
So the next book, we haven't really chatted about this in the video, but the next book is actually a very different project. Is that this particular book is a non-fiction book. It does involve some of my journey through the martial arts, and then it looks at the pedagogy or training of traditional martial arts frameworks by looking at the objective of unpacking a dynamic situation. So it really is kind of a martial arts manual, but it seeks to actually look at the pedagogy or the method of training. Whereas the next book is really a historical fiction, and a few people have picked me up on that. Is that they go, what is historical fiction? And the real story is that there are historical facts that have existed, and this is from the 19th century. So it started from around the time when Ryukyu, or Okinawa, modern day Okinawa, was annexed by Japan, and it looks at the impetus and the challenges that the early martial artists had to then form a system of training that could scale upwards called karate, right? So it's a modern day system of karate to establish a new training structure in Okinawa and bring it to Japan and roll it out there. So there is history, there are facts, but then beyond the facts is that the facts don't tell a story. Historical fiction is unfolding the story through the facts in order for us to understand the circumstance, the human or the humanity and the interpersonal relationships that they have between each other, so that these people become alive, that we breathe life into their perspective.
I think you do a great job of that, and I think you do a great job of breathing life into their art as well, explaining their motivations and helping people to get into their shoes for a while. Helps people understand the influences with which they changed their system, they changed their practice, and they changed the way they taught it and the way it was learned by students. You know, why did they do that? We don't just get a simple why, we get a complete feel for why. I appreciate the depth, I appreciate the humanity, I appreciate the compassion that the reader is able to have for the practitioners. Many people are critical of hard styles. Many people say things like it's not effective and there's something wrong with it, and just really criticize it to the nth degree. But do we understand why there is hard style Japanese karate? Read the book and we will.